Hey guys, how's it going? Nighter here. So I thought I'd just make a quick video to kind of talk about a few of the things that are coming out for Arclight. Not only about the seasons a little bit to clear up a little bit of confusion, but also going to show a little bit about the Corsair, show a few spells from the Rogue. Just know that all of the graphics and animations for the spell and stuff, some of them are still placeholders. Like the Corsair gunfire and stuff is still placeholder. That'll all be finished for launch, but I thought I'd just give you guys kind of a teaser. So quickly just about Corsair, I'll kind of break down the weapons. So Corsairs, not only can they dual wield, but they can use actually a gun in that dual wielding. So Corsairs have three different types of guns. They have pistols, which are shown right here. They have blunderbusses or double barrels, which is this one and this one. And then they have muskets, which are guns that look similar to that. So the different type of gun really depends on kind of what play style you're going for at the time, right? A pistol is more of a close combat. It allows you to also dual wield with a dagger. Whereas the musket and the blunderbuss, they're two-handed. So the pistol only has a 3 square range, whereas the musket has a 7 square range, right? So it allows you to really siege from the back line. And then the blunderbuss is a mid-range gun. A little bit lower damage than the musket, however it does splash damage, as you can see here. So it hits multiple tiles, which also actually makes it more accurate. And then whereas the pistol is a closer range gun. Yeah, that's a little bit about the Corsair, because the Corsair is kind of like a hybrid tankish class. They do pretty good DPS, but they're on the tankier side. They're tankier than Archer, for example, but they're still not as tanky as the Guardian. They're about as tanky in terms of health pool as a Berserker. They just don't have as good sustain as a Berserker in close combat, obviously because of the lifesteal. But anyways, on to Rogue. I'll show a few of the Rogue abilities. So Rogues have two different main heals, I guess you could say. They have Soothing Darkness, which is their primary heal, their Exura Ground, whatever you want to say. They're no cooldown heal, right? It's a quick heal, heals for a decent amount. And then they have a Crimson Vial, which is a long cooldown heal, but it heals for about 3 times the amount the Soothing Darkness heals for. So it's kind of like Archer's Grace for an Archer. When it comes to close combat, they attack about twice the speed. Obviously, I'm on a Game Master character, so it's just showing a single attack. But a few of their attack spells are like Shadow Step, where they blink behind the target. This is like used as a gap closer, also does a pretty good amount of damage though. Yeah, and then they got Reaping, which is just a series of attacks really quickly. A few of them we don't really want to show off because we kind of want to keep it as a surprise. But essentially they're a very fast attack speed, close combat, very fragile location. They'll probably be the most fragile class in the game, but also very good damage, very good gap closers. I kind of see them as they'll probably be more of an assassin type class, maybe a little bit more PvP focused, less PvE focused. That all will tell based on how people play them, of course. But that's kind of what I think they'll end up being. Where I think the Corsair will be maybe a little bit more PvE focused. Not to mention the Corsair has some like team buffs. It has Corsair's roll, which essentially the Corsair rolls dice. Depending on what comes up with the dice, it gives the group a different buff. Which can obviously be very nice in big group hunts because they actually can roll an EXP boost, which is pretty sweet. But it's all random and it has a pretty long cooldown, so it's one of those things that you do and you take what you can get, kind of. So I want to keep this video relatively short, so it's not just me kind of rambling about everything with the classes. You guys have heard a lot already anyways. So I'm kind of going to hit a few things that I've seen asked a lot. Actually, I'll pull up the Discord too here. So the first thing is a lot of people keep asking, is this a wipe? Like, does this season mean that Arclight's getting wiped again? No. So in my other video, I answered it, but maybe not well enough. Essentially, the way seasons will work is you'll play the season, and when the season ends, you'll be awarded seasonal badges based on how much you progress through the season. There's a ton of different achievements. You guys will see them all in game when you start playing. Everything from completing all the dungeons to killing kind of the final boss, I guess you could say, for the season. To PvP rewards, to stat line rewards, to quest rewards, monster killing rewards. Like there's rewards kind of for any play style. And the idea is that the more you do in the season, the more things you get done, the more seasonal badges you get. When the season ends, every character that is in the season will roll over to the main Arclight server, which is not being wiped. And those characters will be either usable or you can, like, quote unquote disenchant them to break them down and get what you put into them back out. So for example, let's say you put in some stat stones into your seasonal character, right? You can pull all those out when the season ends, which is pretty cool because it means you're not really actually wasting anything on them. Just for the time being, they're on that character, and then you'll be able to take them out. Just to confirm, this won't work for current existing characters in Arclight. It's only seasonal characters that you'll be able to disenchant for obvious reasons. Yeah, and then the seasonal badges you can either use on this character, or you can give them to your main character and spend them on that character to buy like pretty cool shit, stuff that will increase the strength of your character on main Arclight. So just to confirm, these seasons will never result in a wipe. Essentially, a season is like a short-term, very heavily themed, I guess its own server, you could almost say. The amount of content that we have is actually insane. It's as much as any other server would make. And then once you're done, it all carries over to regular Arclight, right? So to show a few things on our new client, as you can see here, the very clear one is our screen width and height is way bigger than the regular client. It's 13 squares on the left, 13 on the right, 7 up, 7 down, which is massive compared to the current Kipsoft client. The other thing is it's obviously full screen, so there's none of this gray border and all that bullshit. It's full screen, like if you're playing World of Warcraft or pretty much any other MMO. And then all the model windows are all movable, so every single thing you can rearrange wherever you want, resizable. It really allows you to kind of do whatever you want with the client, right? Which is very nice for people who like to fiddle around with it, right? You can change the size of the chat window. You can even actually make the chat window and the health window disappear if you don't want them, right? Especially if you're like in a hardcore hunt and you don't really need the chat, or you're just trying to focus, right? You can just put it away for a bit, right? These are all just kind of quality of life things. And then almost every talk action now will be in an actual icon up here. So you can see you can click them and it'll actually bring up, instead of having to use talk actions for everything, which is a lifesaver for a lot of people. You can pull up your companions, kind of everything with this. But yeah. And then, yeah, the next thing I wanted to show was actually the bot. So we've worked on making our own kind of bot for the client. So what this means is, obviously with the new client, people won't be able to use Xenobot, which we really did like found Arclight in the sense of being allowed to bot. I was always massive into botting. I was always massive into the botting community. That's why I actually moved to OTs, was because how accepting botting was. And I've always just loved fiddling around with the bot, making min-max scripts, like the perfect hunting loops. And so that's why we never really cracked down on an Arclight, because I always had kind of heartstrings for it. I loved the whole botting community. And so what we've done, though, is we've kind of made a crossroads. We developed a bot that it's not as good as Xeno. It'll never be up to that level where it has like a full script, or you can fully AFK your character 24/7, do a dungeon. Like we're not like that. But essentially what it will allow you to do is have basic stuff, like support spells that auto cast. It'll have auto healing, stuff like that. Things that like really like Tibia should almost have, because they're just it's you know. So we have kind of a support tab. We have like an AFK kind of tab in terms of like eat food, anti-kick, magic training, basic stuff like that. And then we have a targets tab where you can set up your targeting. This won't be as advanced as Xenobot, right? You're not gonna have these amazing, perfect targeting combos and stuff like that. It will still be better to manual, and that's kind of what we want to go for, right? We don't want it to be where the bot is just better than anyone could ever manual, right? We want to have that skill level, but we also want to make it so people can, you know, bot while they're, let's say, like fucking studying for school or something, right? Or they're I don't know, playing a game of League, right? Like things like that, we're very okay with. And then we set up an auto pather, and yeah, so essentially the bot, like I said, won't be as good as Xeno, and we'll never develop it to that point. But the real goal was just to make sure that some of these functions were available, like the auto healing. But yeah, guys, anyways, that's actually all we have for. Hold on, wait, maybe we have a few Discord questions here. Like I said, I want to keep the video reasonably short. One quick one: are you working on a new city for Arclight? We may resprite the entire Arclight city with our own custom sprites, but that's something that would be down the road for sure. Will the current Arclight still get updates on content while people are playing the seasons? So this is a big one, actually. I'm glad I noticed this one. So we have a shit ton of content prepared for Arclight that will be getting released the day the season ends. So essentially we've developed a power scaling system for dungeons. They'll be called Greater Dungeons with the idea behind endless content. I'll make a whole video kind of describing that. I don't want to get too much into this just because of time. But we have a lot of new content already prepared for Arclight, including lots of new gear sets, tier sets in between, like Mastercraft, stuff like that. A whole new change to our crafting system. The awakening levels. We got so much cool stuff coming out. But like I said, that'll all be released when the season ends. Because the idea is we want people to play the season, and then when it ends, they'll come to Arclight and there'll be tons of content. And this is actually amazing for us because what it allows us to do is when we have a new season come out, we have all this new content for people to try. And during that time, it allows us to also develop new content for Arclight. So it's actually like, you know, it's definitely a lot more staff. People are going kind of into overdrive in terms of working on stuff. But the community wants it, the community's there, and you guys support us really well. So we're trying to, you know, provide as much content and give back as much to you guys as possible. Anyways, guys, that'll be the end of this video. It was just, like I said, trying to flesh out a few things to you guys, show you guys a few things. We'll have more things coming out. Make sure you're in our Discord because we tease stuff all the time in our Discord. Images of new bosses, new creatures, new weapons, kind of everything in there. But yeah, anyways, shit, what am I supposed to say? Like, comment, subscribe to this video or some shit. All right, guys, have a good one.